The difference between Washington, D.C. and real life and House of Cards is in House of Cards, there was somebody who had a plan. Like at least Frank Underwood, like he had a plan. What's really going up here is it's most of, there's conspiracy theories, right? But it's mostly just uninformed self-interests at work and a bunch of clowns that are they have no plan and they're trying to figure out how to get to the next week.
We have this report from Axios. MAGA demands arrests after Trump accuses Obama of treason, but it's not so simple. Tulsi Gabbard has put out information that shows Obama ordered the release of fragmented, highly dubious intel that proved nothing in order to claim Putin was trying to get Trump elected. This was the basis for a years-long witch hunt in which the Mueller investigation bogged down Donald Trump. His appointees were jammed up. His presidency was completely undermined. Many have called this a coup. Tulsi Gabbard has called this a treasonous conspiracy. Now, right now, we have a couple big political scandals. Before we get into that, I want to stress Trump has major legislative victories right now. IRS staff being curtailed. This reported yesterday, 26,000 individuals. The border secure, tariffs, no hyperinflation, new trade deals benefiting America. But while Donald Trump is engaging in policy agenda items, as he is doing this and succeeding, the Obama scandal and the Epstein scandal are weighing him down. Now, right now, Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna have a bill that would force the release of the Epstein files, and he wants those to be put up. But the House says we're going on recess, it's been scheduled, and we're not going to have any more votes. So we're going to be bringing in Rep. Thomas Massie to discuss with us. First, I would like to ask about what's going on with the Obama files, with the treason and all of this stuff, but we'll get into the Epstein latest developments as well. Let's load this up. All right. Pulling it in, getting it going. Rep. Massie, how's it going?
It's going all right.
Thank you for joining me.
Are we live?
We are live, sir, indeed.
All right, then I'll quit fiddling.
All right. Well, so there's a lot to talk about. Obviously, yourself, Ro Khanna, you have this bill to force the release of the Epstein files without exposing any victims, their information, as well as protecting the ongoing investigations. I do want to ask you that about that in a little bit. But first, I wanted to ask you your thoughts on the latest release from Tulsi Gabbard. I'm not sure if you've seen the files, but yeah. It shows that Obama ordered the release of information that the intelligence community knew was likely not correct, was based on a sentence fragment. And this was the basis of a years-long campaign against Donald Trump to accuse him of colluding with the Russians. Tulsi Gabbard said it was a treasonous conspiracy. Others have called it a coup. I'm curious your thoughts.
Well, you know, when all that was coming out back in the day, I parsed it as carefully as I could. And we got classified briefings here in Congress where they tried to convince us that Russians were at play in the elections. But when I asked the questions and dug into it in these briefings, they never did actually say that the machines had been tampered with, that they were changing vote totals. If you listened intently and you followed up with questions, they would always admit that they were alluding to some kind of social media influence program. In the file that I read that the DNI put out, it alludes to people leaking information to the press. I'd like to know who those individuals are. Can we go subpoena people and find out who were the leakers? If that was an illegal and false leak, then who were they? They weren't whistleblowers. They were subverting our government.
Do you think, a lot of people like Tulsi Gabbard herself said this was a treasonous conspiracy? First question is on the part of government. Do you agree with that assessment that the Obama administration was conspiring to undermine the authority, at first the campaign, then the authority of Donald Trump?
If you're asking me to tell you if I'm surprised that this was going on, the answer would be absolutely not. My default position, Tim, is that this whole mess up here is a treasonous conspiracy, that pretty much everybody it's in D.C. that is part of a treasonous conspiracy. So
So to clarify, just to clarify, you're saying yes, but kind of come on, they're all doing it and worse.
Come on, we already knew this was happening. That's my point.
Fair point. Fair point.
But to be specific, when I read those documents, it alludes to somebody leaked some information to mislead the press into thinking that they were changing vote totals and not just doing some social media policy, some social media bots or something. Okay, if that's the case, who did it? I would like for this administration to dig deeper and investigate that and find out who was the leak, because that sounds like an illegal activity to me. The fact that that Obama was trying to direct people to misrepresent the facts. Look, that went on during the Biden administration with COVID on the vaccines and everything. And I've done investigations there and proven it. And nobody cares.
Why not? Why don't they care?
I don't know. I guess they've already moved on. But you had the thing that I'm alluding to is I did like 5-hour depositions of top FDA officials who admitted that they were pressured by the Biden administration to basically skip steps in the approval process to get the full approval of the vaccine so that they could be mandated. They were told, so that the government can mandate these, we need you guys to skip steps and get these things on the approval list. Why is nothing happening? I mean, thankfully, Peter Marks, the guy who was, his hands were dirty and all of that, fortunately, Bobby Kennedy got rid of that miscreant. By the way, I deposed Peter Marks too. It's just like when you find actual evidence, nobody does anything. But at least in this case, Bobby Kennedy got rid of Peter Marks. My question is, are there people still in this administration? There probably are, who participated in that or went along or didn't blow the whistle.
Well, Laura Loomer has been consistently scouring the records of the current administration, the holdovers, and calling them out. Many are getting fired. But kind of to bring this all together, because you make an interesting point too. One, the leaks that were coming from these holdovers intending to undermine the presidency. It's interesting. We are focused on Obama as this. He ordered Brennan, according to this document, to publish this full review, despite the intelligence community saying a sentence fragment is not usable intelligence. So it based on everything we've seen, it looks like they were outright just saying undermine Trump in any way. Now, moving on to the COVID stuff you're talking about, obviously.
Very quickly, I did hear you say, the leaks. I want to be clear. A lot of times when somebody leaks something, they're a whistleblower, and I'm all for that if there's some kind of malfeasance. In this case, the leaks were false and meant to mislead the American public.
Right. We've seen selective leaks where only one page of like a 10-page report gets out so that it screws with the context. But so what I was getting at is you went on to mention COVID, right? There are many people who believe that the lockdowns implemented at the state level were intended to help Democrats steal the election by implementing mass mail-in voting and things like this. So you mentioned, the FDA, individuals saying that they were pressured to get these approvals. Do you think that was political, or do you think that they were doing this? I'm not trying to directly conflate those two, that theory with this, but just to start here, do you think they were pressured for political purposes, for some kind of policy advantage, or do you think it was Big Pharma trying to make money? Or is there something else?
Well, I think it was both. I mean, look, Big Pharma gives donations, lots of donations to to Biden. And then you had Biden through Janet Woodcock, who was the temporary director or whatever at the time, who went to Peter Marks. Usually it's like some high mid-level person who does the dirty deed. And then they're instructed through a personal conversation that you can't find written down anywhere. But in this case, we got the closest thing you can get to showing that this was political pressure. But the political pressure was probably motivated by money as well.
I think when you look at everything going on in Congress. You mentioned, DC is one big criminal conspiracy, but I want to pull that to reality. It seems like, especially with Congress, everything's a backroom deal. Everything's back channel. There's, when I remember talking to Marjorie Taylor Greene about how they never actually even have floor votes on these bills, and it's like just a handful of people grunting. And it was, you, her, as well as several others, forcing Congress to do their jobs.
Yeah.
Now y'all are taking a month off. It really does feel like the true machinations of D.C. are like House of Cards. Somebody's going to get paid. Somebody wants money and power. And it's not typically a legitimate process by which we can govern this country.
The difference between Washington, D.C. in real life and House of Cards is in House of Cards, there was somebody who had a plan. Like at least Frank Underwood, like he had a plan. What's really going up here is it's most of, there's conspiracy theories, right? But it's mostly just uninformed self-interests at work and a bunch of clowns that are they have no plan, and they're trying to figure out how to get to the next week. And the next episode is going to be another clown car. And the difference here is the whole cast is taking 5 weeks off, and there won't be a clown show for a while. You'll have to see it back in your districts.
Why, man, I envy your guys' job. You get 5 weeks off right now. For what reason?
Well, I don't know if this is the right time to transition back into the Epstein legislation that I introduced, but some of my colleagues here are thanking me for introducing the legislation because it takes 7 days to ripen, and the speaker is sending us on recess on the 6th day to make sure that I don't force this thing to a vote before the September
You get an extra day off. Is that it?
Well, it just ensures we don't have an extra day tacked on. It makes sure that everything's happening on time. Now, when I say on time, what's not happening is there aren't 12 bills coming to the floor. Honestly, the Appropriations Committee, you could send Congress home. A lot of people here aren't doing much of anything, but the Appropriations Committee is responsible for 12 separate bills that should fund the government. And it's pretty clear they're going to punt, but they should be chained to their desks here in Washington, D.C. until they get those 12 separate bills. So at least when the rest of everybody else comes back from August recess, and by the way, I'm supposed to call it the August district work period. That's the euphemism. So when we all get back from the August district work period, let me try it and see if I can do it with a straight face. It didn't work.
This is why Congress approval rating is so low.
Yeah. So when we get back, that's when we could be voting on the things. But the reality is the appropriations committees won't be done.
But but why is there a month off? Is this like a normal thing for Congress?
I think it dates back 200 years. They didn't have air conditioning. And so the swamp, it literally was a swamp.
Yep.
And you could, bubonic plague and
really?
And whatever. I don't know what you get in the swamp, malaria. It was to send people home during August was just sort of a humanitarian thing to do.
There you go.
But now we have air conditioning, and we have tunnels that, this building behind me, I'm connected to that building through a tunnel that's air conditioned. I can get over to the Capitol from my office here without ever, being exposed to sun, and in a 70-degree, 30% humidity environment. So there's really no reason anymore to go home during August, especially if the work's not done.
I got the perfect question to transition these two stories.
Okay.
Do you think that Trump and Tulsi Gabbard, his administration, are being serious about the Obama accusations, and that they're actually going to take action in some form, criminal prosecutions? Or is it just a distraction with perfect timing because of the Epstein story?
Well, here in the House, I don't know what their intent is. I can tell you I know Tulsi Gabbard, and her intentions are as pure as wind-driven snow, based on my interactions with her privately after she left Congress, and also when she was in Congress. I don't doubt her for a second. I think she's working within a swamp over there, and it's going to be hard to get actual results. There, like I said, they should be tracking down who the fake leakers were,
Yeah.
and they should be prosecuting them. Because if the middlemen who always carry out these dirty deeds never get prosecuted or held to task, then they're just going to keep doing it with impunity, regardless of who won the election and who's up at the top and who the DNI is. Okay. But now here in the House, oh, it's a welcome distraction. The leadership here in the House, they do not want to talk about Epstein, and they love having this other thing to talk about right now, even though they themselves have no intention of doing anything about either of them.
What's going on? This is the weirdest thing to me. It seems like the Trump administration is simultaneously making the Epstein story the biggest news while also calling for it to be obstructed. I can't make heads or tails of it.
Well, let me give you what I think is the 30,000-foot view here. A lot of us, myself included, were excited to elect Trump and have a bull in the china shop. Many people were apathetic that there's an elite ruling class and rich people who are beyond the judicial system, who basically run everything in Washington, D.C. and even globally, and that Trump would come up here and expose these people and disrupt that. And the Epstein case isn't the be-all and end-all, but it's the perfect snapshot, the perfect prototype of what we're talking about here. And so it's completely off-brand and out of character for this administration, having run on this issue, at least all the people around him, to want to sweep it under the rug now. And here's the danger of that politically. It's bad policy. I mean, Americans deserve transparency and the victims deserve justice, but it's bad politics because it's going to be a bloodbath in the midterms, because all those people who Trump cured their apathy, they're going to go back to being apathetic if we don't follow through on this. So,
yep.
I'm going to talk to Mike Johnson later today, and this is what I'm going to tell him. Look, the best thing you could do is show people we were serious when they gave us the Trump presidency, a majority in the House and a majority in the Senate. We were serious about holding people accountable, even if they're part of an elite, rich, and powerful group that's normally beyond the law. And so we should just have the vote. He shouldn't make me force the vote. If Mike Johnson would bring this thing to a vote, I know it creates a little bit of daylight between him and Trump, which he doesn't want to have any daylight between the two of them. But it's necessary for us to keep the majority in the midterms.
But why would Trump oppose the release of these files, especially if they're arguing there's nothing there?
Well, there is stuff there. Look, and my legislation, some of the things that I want to release are absolutely there. There's plea bargains, right? There's special payoffs. There's legal deals that were made. I want to open that up, find out who paid people not to get prosecuted, okay, or not to bring charges against them.
But is there some of the names of the individuals, or is this assumptive based on the story as reported with the flight logs and stuff? Are you assuming that there would have been people who were charged or took plea bargains, or is there actual intelligence that they did prosecute people associated with Epstein?
I don't have anything in my possession that you can't also get from the news. And but Epstein made a lot of money. Where did all this money come from, for instance? Okay, there's bank records. This stuff doesn't go away. Now, maybe they had a fire pit, in the West Wing and burned everything they could find, but it's still out there digitally.
Or maybe there was a private server that they used BleachBit to wipe and smashed phones with hammers.
Yeah, so just go to the NSA and get the copies, right? So here's, and you said something, I do want to respond to this because I think there was a question in there about, does this implicate Trump? Why do I think he's reluctant to release it? I don't think it implicates President Trump. His laundry's been aired. I remember sitting through the Stormy Daniels hearings in the Oversight Committee, and I took up for him, and we had his Weasley lawyer there who admitted to lying for Trump, even though Trump didn't ask him to lie.
Right.
uh, you know, and anyways, that's all been aired. I think Trump is somewhat immune from those sort of scandals at this point. He's got the antibodies. Okay, he earned them, and now what we're talking about though is there probably are some people who are friends of Donald Trump, elite and powerful people that he's had dinners with, who could be embarrassed. Maybe there was nothing criminal. And so I think that is one motivation. And I think the other motivation is, and this is, I'm not just pulling this out of thin air, there are court records back when they gave Epstein his first deal down in Florida that say he was connected to intelligence.
Yep.
And I think we need to know what that connection was. Because if he's gone, and there's still the same people who were collecting intelligence using Epstein probably have somebody else right now doing the same stuff.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot of creepy rumors and theories, images. There's an image of a guy on Epstein Island after he reportedly died who people say looks like Epstein. Who knows? But here's one of the challenges for me, I think, for a lot of the people who support Trump is they ignore, Democrats and the media ignore this story. They call everybody, I mean, over the past several years, you were a conspiracy theorist if you believed the Epstein claims and stories. He was just a lone trafficker. He took his own life. Now the entirety of the Democratic Party is going on TV and going on podcasts and saying, oh, now we have to do it. CNN is publishing photos from '93 of Trump and Epstein. There's a picture of like Epstein in the background of some image. Now, I trust you on these matters. I think you're genuine. I trust Ro Khanna as well. I may disagree with both of you on certain political issues, but I think that is a genuine attempt at getting this stuff published for the public good. But the rest of the Democratic Party, I don't trust. Now, to be honest, the Republicans have me questioning why they're holding back on this. But what is the motivation of the Democratic Party when their guiding principle for the past decade has just been, we hate Trump?
Yeah, and thank you for excluding Ro Khanna. I want to exclude him as well from the indictment I'm going to deliver of the Democrats. Look, they're at the foot of the cross now, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they're believers, but they're at the foot of the cross. And I don't care how they got to the foot of the cross. They're here, and it creates an opportunity to get these files out. If Joe Biden were president, I do think that Ro Khanna would be among them who would want this released. But I think 90% of the Democrats would want to have nothing to do with this. So people have asked me, but Massie, why didn't you do anything before? Well, you can go back at my Twitter feeds and you can probably watch my interviews. This isn't the first time I've mentioned it. I was one of those conspiracy theorists. Okay. I was with the group. You can find my tweets that show in 2022, I was talking about this. In 2024, when Biden was president. But it's true, I did not introduce legislation when Biden was president or during the first 6 months of Trump's presidency. And here's the reason I'm introducing it now. There's 435 members up here. I just kind of assumed somebody else was working on this and that these things would get released. And what I realized two things here recently. Number one, the people who were allegedly working on releasing this stuff had no intention of releasing it. Or they've stubbed their toe, they've been taken into a back room and something's been whispered in their ear and they've immediately lost interest in releasing it, okay? So they were insincere or not able, or they have changed their mind all of a sudden. That's one thing. Number two, politics is the art of the possible, okay? If you introduced legislation when Joe Biden was president, it's true. The Democrats would not be sincerely involved. They're not sincerely involved now, but they are interested. Well, some of them are sincere, but the majority of them are doing this because Trump is president. I mean, let's be honest. But I've also got some sincere Republicans who you have to be really sincere at this point to have President Trump, whose favorability is 90% among Republicans in just about any state. If you're a Republican member of Congress and you've co-sponsored my legislation, which a dozen people have, man, you deserve some kind of at least a certificate suitable for framing, because that kind of courage doesn't exist up here most of the time. And we need basically every Dem to sign my discharge petition and 5 or 6 Republicans. And we've got twice that many Republicans as co-sponsors of this legislation now. So I think we can get there.
I got to be honest, if I was going to make a bet, I'd say that the only reason Democrats are agreeing to sign on is under the assumption that the bill will lose. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, I could be wrong. You would know better than me. But I kind of feel like if this actually went to a vote, a lot of Democrats would be voting against it, despite the image they're trying to portray right now, because there are elites who are terrified of being exposed. There are people who get super PAC contributions that fund their campaigns, and someone's going to come and give them a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. This can't happen. We'll pull your funds, and then they're going to vote no.
Well, I think if there is an off-ramp somewhere between passing my resolution and getting this done, there will be Republicans looking for that off-ramp, and there will be Democrats looking for that off-ramp. In other words, even if I do get this passed, and I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, if I can get this to the floor, and by the way, I think I got the signatures to get this to the floor. And Mike Johnson can try to derail it with some parliamentary procedure, but then the vote on that parliamentary issue becomes the litmus test of whether you want to expose the Epstein files or not. And everybody needs to understand, when they try to do the shell game there at the end and use a procedural vote to take my vote out, then that becomes the vote we all need to watch. But let's assume Mike Johnson operates in good faith and follows the rules of the House of Representatives that were put in place at the beginning of the Congress. Literally, we vote on the rules and then we vote on the speaker. And those two things happen the same day. Okay, let's assume he operates in good faith and brings this to the floor. I think there's a chance you get unanimous passage. I think, do you want to be one of the 12 people in Congress that doesn't vote for this?
That's a good point.
You're literally implicating at least your friends and your social circles, if not yourself. Or maybe you just think there are some secrets too important for the American people to know, and they can't handle the truth. But either way, you don't want to be in that category. Here's the off-ramp they may take, Tim, because I agree with you. There may be some of them that want to vote for this and then don't want it to happen. There's 2 ways to structure the Epstein legislation in the House. By the way, people complain, oh, Massie, it took you 4.5 years to come up with this legislation. Guess what? It took Speaker Johnson 4.5 years and a week to copy my legislation and introduce a fake version of it.
Wow.
Okay? Which is, it's not fake, but it's a resolution, not a bill. So there's 2 ways to do this in the House. You can either do a resolution in the House, which doesn't pass the Senate and isn't presented to the president. We call it presentment because it doesn't need his signature. You can override with 2/3 vote. You could override the president. So you could either do this as a House resolution, which won't be binding, and that's what Mike Johnson has encouraged. And they've already passed that in the Rules Committee, but they won't even bring that to the floor. They're afraid to even vote on the non-binding version. If it came to the floor, I would vote for it, but I would say, listen, folks, this isn't binding, but at least it's something. The way that I have done it, I've introduced it as a law. Okay, that means if there's some other law that's on the books that would keep these files from coming out, mine's the newest law. Mine supersedes that law. And so everybody who's saying, well, you can't do this with grand jury stuff, you can't do that with that. No, this is a law. We write the laws. If there's a problem with the law, this law fixes it. So, but in order to be a law, it has to pass the House and the Senate. I think the off-road they might try is to deep six this in the Senate.
Could you, but I can only imagine the midterm campaign ads where it says, candidate voted to protect Epstein. And that's something most people don't want running in their districts, I'd imagine. So maybe you're right. I mean, you know better than me. So there's no possibility of this happening before you guys recess for August, though, right?
No, because they're going to adjourn tonight here in Congress. So there's no possibility. And they're hoping that the urgency, they're hoping the American people will move on, that there'll be some hurricane or some earthquake or something that, if not, if not a tragedy, then some weapon of mass distraction. But I don't think any weapon of mass distraction can take the American people's eye off this ball, because it's the consummate case for why we put Republicans in charge and Trump in the White House, is so the elite and powerful, the veil could be pierced by the bull in the china shop.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of people that are trying to back away and say we want to get the agenda through and this isn't the highest priority. For me, I wouldn't say that Epstein is my highest priority. I think the on-the-ground kitchen table issues take precedent all the time because we're talking about whether someone's going to get food. But I don't think anybody should be ignoring or walking away from the story for political reasons. So I look forward to seeing what happens in September. Rep. Massie, thanks for joining. Where can people find you?
They can find me at Rep. Thomas Massie. Look for the hashtag Sassy with Massie. And although they don't like hashtag, Elon doesn't like hashtags anymore on Twitter, I might still use it.
Well, right on. I appreciate you coming on, and I guess we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Tim.
Take care. And that is a wrap with Representative Thomas Massie, who is personally my favorite member of Congress. He used to be Matt Gaetz. You know, I told Rep. Massie this. I said, Rep. Gaetz was my favorite, challenging the system with strength and with capability, but always a big fan of Thomas Massie, and I disagree with him all the time. There are several times in a year where I'm saying, like, Massie is wrong on this, but he's honest. He's an honest guy. The same thing with Ro Khanna. I disagree with Ro Khanna on almost everything, but, you know, I've had him on the show. He's come on the show. He's talked. He's explained his positions, and he was genuine. He wasn't lying. He believes what he believes. And I think his policies are bad ideas for this country. But when it comes to the issue of Epstein, I think he made a mistake. As Rep. Massie pointed out, I think it's called, what is it? The Lex, what is it called? Posterior or something? I'm not a lawyer. Basically, any new law supersedes the old. If he were to pass this law saying you got to publish everything, it would have published victim information, and we don't want that. And so he teamed up with Massie. They fixed it. And I believe that was genuine and sincere, and I'm excited to see it happen. I don't know why Trump opposes it so much. But if it implicates Trump, then so be it. I don't think it does. But again, I don't care. Protections for nobody. Criminals, we expose. The reason I don't think it actually goes after Trump, they would have exposed it a long time ago if they had anything to. And everybody knows this point. You don't need to hear it again. Massie made a good point. Maybe some of Trump's friends will be embarrassed, so he's trying to wash it away. But I will say this. What if the attempt at distraction results in Trump saying, quick, arrest Obama? And so what they're doing now is they're going to go after Crossfire Hurricane and actually arrest some of the corruption in the Democratic side because Trump's worried about the Epstein thing. That'll distract people. Anyway, my friends, we're going to get that raid going for you guys right now. Russell Brand is gearing up to go live. Let's. What is up with that thumbnail? Tim Pool's a weird guy. Let's grab Russell's channel. I believe he is live now. We'll send you on your way, my friends. Smash that like button. Subscribe to this channel, share the show with everyone. You know, it really does help. It seriously does. You know, on this Rumble live stream, my friends, we have done tremendous with you guys watching the show, watching the lineup as if it's a network. The Rumble lineup has become some of the largest viewed live streams in the country on a regular basis, consistently cracking the top 10. Rumble has held more than half of it consistently in the news category, upwards of 70, 80%, because you guys share and you watch. And that means a lot. If we're going to win a culture war, that means we're going to be paying attention and we're going to focus on what makes this country a better place and sharing it with our friends. Smash that like button once again, my friends, on the way out, and we'll see you all tonight at 8 p.m. for Timcast IRL.